Ghost Light.
Hi, everybody!
Hello, everyone! How's
Welcome.
your summer ending?
It's so good to see you all. Welcome to Beyond the Ghost Light. This September episode, this Labor Day episode, I am coming live from Los Angeles this time. We did this about 6 months ago. I came live from Los Angeles, and this time I'm doing it again. It's sunny, it's bright. My Airbnb is really expensive. It's like it's like 1.6 million, I think is what it is. So, I'm literally living the dream, if you will. So it's kind of nice. I got to be here for a week. It was lovely. How about you, Nick? How you been this last week?
Not bad. The weather is decidedly, but it's nice to have this fairly pleasant end to the summer. And of course, we're getting out there a little more. Delta's out there too, but we're doing a lot more, and that's kind of cool. I'm glad you're having a good trip in LA, and I understand you're not alone on this trip.
I am not alone on this trip. Caca, their mother. I actually came out here with my mom. My brother moved out here about 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. And we came out for a week to visit with him and say hi and do some family time. And hey there, Mom's going to come and say hi to everybody out there. Oh, this way.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, Bridget.
Hi, Nick. How's it going?
Oh, I'm pretty good. How are you?
Outstanding. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Delightful. And I mean, you're usually a fixture of the show anyway, but here you are, quasi in person. Hooray.
The prominent point being quasi. Thank you.
Exactly. Okay, so Luna's having a little bit of tech issues, I think. But Tori and I can just carry on because that's the theatrical way. So today's guest is Craig Ester. Craig is a playwright and actor, and has recently done a couple of Shakespeare in the Park, Shakespeare Outdoors for a couple of places. One local to us, and one which was Hoosier Shakespeare. And not being from around these parts, I recognize the term, but I'm not entirely sure geographically what that means. So let's bring Craig on and he can explain.
I think
Hello. Thank you all for having me today.
Thank you
It's
so much.
delightful to see you.
This is awesome. I'm really excited. I've been looking forward to this all week. So let's hop right into it. Let's go ahead and get this conversation a rizzolin, if you will. Yes, I did.
You did. You went there.
I went there, all the way there. So let's dive right in. Literally, you've actually been able yourself to dive back into the joy of summer Shakespeare rep. Can we have a huzzah for that? A good huzzah! So what is it like to be able to say thank you back again and thank you five and all of that? What is it like to be back on stage?
It was really emotional, especially my first rehearsal. The first thing I did this summer, as Nick mentioned, was Hoosier Shakespeare Festival, which is a company that's based out of Marion, Indiana. They're on the campus of Indiana Wesleyan University, and then they tour around Indiana for the summer doing shows. So we did The Tempest and we did Richard III. And the very first day when we started having read-throughs and we said thank you back to the stage manager, there was just like a ripple of energy through the room of just getting to be there and be in the room and be present and just say thank you because we're back in the room together. So it was really awesome. It was really delightful.
I know you've been missing tape ball. I mean, everyone's been missing the chance to play tape ball in person. You just can't do that in a a virtual show.
No, you can't.
No, you can't. And there's something about that energy, right? When you're in person versus when you're virtual. We as artists, of course, we can make art anywhere, right? That's kind of, and that's where some of the most fun and creative and exciting art comes from, is when we have less resources and we get the chance to really explore what it is that we can do with what we have. But there's just something magical about literally being in the same room as each other. You can feel each other's energy, you can feed off of it. And it's just, I think that's where a lot of us actually fell in love with acting, I would say, with live performance specifically.
Yeah, it's the family. It's the thing. We do this weird thing where we go maybe around our community, maybe around the country, if we're so lucky, around the world. We make little families and we get really intensely connected and we fall in love with each other, and then we separate for long periods of time, and hopefully we get back together. And sometimes we don't see each other for a long time, but it's a really it's a strange, wonderful lifestyle.
Absolutely. Just wonderful. So with doing The Tempest, I didn't know that you'd actually done 2 plays. I knew you'd done The Tempest. Richard III was the other one as part of that. Who were you in Richard III? Just
Sure. I was the Duke of Hastings, and I was the Earl of Oxford as well. So doubling that up so I could fight and also and get my head cut off. So my mother really enjoyed that.
A lot of wielding of sticks and swords and staffs. It's a really
yeah.
A lot of prop handling there. A lot of very useful practical props. Yeah. So tell me about the Tempest, and then we'll just segue into Richard III a bit more too.
Sure. I had a weird saga with The Tempest this year, actually. It's a play that, I'm only 30 years old, so I never thought I would be Prospero. And all of a sudden, I woke up and I was Prospero. And it happened for me twice in the same year, which is a weird pattern I go through with Shakespeare plays, where I was Othello for a friend's really small production. And then this same company, Who's Your Shakespeare, called me to be Othello the same year. So I guess that's just, I have to play it twice in the year, maybe to get it right. I don't know. But a friend of mine here at Center Stage Jackson, Sarah Long, was doing a virtual Tempest production. And so she asked me to cover Prospero for that production. And I was trying really hard to memorize it, and it was difficult and dense and deep, and it's really hard. And it kind of just, through that whole rehearsal process of trying to do it online, just kind of really kicked my butt. And so when Who's Your Shakespeare, who I'd worked with before, said that they were going to do the show, I was like, well, this is a weird sign, because I have to win. I have to beat this play. And so I sent out an audition tape at the very last minute, on the very last day, going, it's fine, whatever, we'll see what happens. And the artistic director called me and just said, you're going to be Prospero. And I went, I am? You sure? And yeah, he said, yes, you are. And it was one of the most moving, insane, life-changing experiences. There's a weird... I had a teacher in high school, Marilyn McCormick at Cass Tech, when I was there, who always just said, the thing that's right for you will be there for you, and you can't mess it up. No matter what happens, it's just going to be there for you. And there was this thing about being Prospero that, I turned 30 while I was doing it. And, again, not that old, but you feel older than you are. And you feel like you look back on your 20s and all the mistakes that you've made and all the things that have led you to being where you are. And it was an experience that made me think about forgiveness, and not just forgiving other people, but forgiving myself for all of the nonsense you go through when you're in your 20s and you're trying to be an adult. You don't know who you are and all of that stuff. And just to the point where I would get to the very last speech of the night, and as soon as he says, "And what strength I have's mine own," I would just start crying, because it was okay, all of this has gone away and it's just me now, and I have to stand on my own. And you think about life, and you think about where you are, and you realize, oh, I'm the one I have to lean on. So I need to forgive myself for all of this nonsense so that we can move forward. And it was, yeah, my parents came, and both nights they came, I was just like fully, I could not, I was like, I have to finish the play. Stop looking at me. Just fully weeping because I didn't know how important it was going to be to me. And it became that important. Yeah.
Beautiful.
That's incredible. You saying that actually brings something to mind about our theater company specifically. One of our pillars, something that we very much concentrate on, is shadow work. We believe that art can make you feel, but it can also help you heal, both as somebody who's taking in the art and someone who's creating the art. So with what you were just talking about how it touched you both as a performer and as a person, as Craig Ester, that's what we're all about, right? That's what the Ibis Theater is all about. So as a younger actor playing Prospero, when you were going through these things, when you were going through these emotional intelligence, educational exercises, basically, what were some of the things that you considered while you were approaching the role? And if you could, what was one of your biggest and most touching lessons, perhaps I could say, that you learned from doing Prospero?
Sure. One of those is one I relearn all the time, especially being in Shakespeare world. I didn't think that I would do so much Shakespeare in my life, but like somehow I like turned 24 or 25 and everybody wanted me to do Shakespeare. So that's where I've been the last, 5-6 years. And the thing that you learn all the time, especially if you're playing one of these lead roles, so Othello, Macbeth, all of those that I've gotten to do, you learn how much this is not about you. And that was for The Tempest, that was one of those huge things, is that I'm only as powerful on stage as the other actors make me look, right? I'm only as impactful as they allow me to be, because I can, I have all the big famous speeches and I have all these big moments that I get to do, and that's great. But if my actor playing Caliban is not working well, or has trouble, right, or is just not fully invested in the moment with me, then my stuff doesn't work, right? And I've got to carry the whole play. So I have to trust that other actor. I have to trust our stage manager. I have to trust our director. And I have to be willing to go, guys, it's not about me. How do I help you? That if you're the lead person in the cast, you are the leader. And that just means that it is your job to make sure that everything on stage is not about you. You have your stuff together so that when you walk in the room, everybody else can do their job. And when everybody else can work at the highest level, then you get to work at your high level. I think that was a huge thing with this production, was being able to just surrender to it, especially with Prospero, because the whole opening scene of the play is like 20 pages of me talking. And again, it's going back to Marilyn McCormick at Cast Tech. She always said, if you do the work will show up. And so I would grill that scene over and over and over again. And this is a theater company where we all were like living together on this college campus. We were with each other all the time. And I would just go, guys, I know we're partying. I have to go back to my room and I have to run this thing, because I have to know in my gut that it's there before we get out on stage, so that the rest of the play can happen. And there were some nights where there was struggle, because it's a lot. It's a big job. But I had to go, okay, I trust my scene partner, I trust myself, and what's supposed to happen tonight is what's going to happen. And you have to, in that second before you come through the curtain and you go onto the stage, recognize that this is one moment. It's never going to be like this again. So take your time, breathe, be there. And so, yeah, that was one of the things. The other thing about being a younger Prospero is just that Prospero, he's so much, for me, the man who has the one instance in his life where he made this big mistake, and he's been living with that thing for 12 years since then. And this guy's been on this island, and the one good thing he can do is make sure that his daughter has every single thing that she needs so that she can go on and have a life, right? And sure, he gets caught up in revenge, he gets caught up in anger, he gets caught up in hate. But the thing I connected to is that it's my job to make sure that she is okay. no matter what. And so when it gets to the point where Ariel goes, hey, everyone is crying and suffering because you're torturing them. Was this really your objective? And he goes, oh, wow, you're a spirit. You're not even a human being, and you think this is cruel. I need to rethink where I am. Because, and again, it goes back to a lesson. It's not about me. Because if it's about her, then it's not about me getting to punish you. It's about me setting up her life. So me punishing you is actually taking away from the thing I set out to do in the first place. Not only that, it's destroying my humanity. I'm being inhuman to these people because I believe I deserve some kind of retribution. And that's not fair. That's not how life works. That the forgiveness has to come from me first. And I have to forgive myself first so that I can then forgive all of these people and trust and believe that the best things for my daughter that I've set up will be what happens next. So making it all about her made it so that the age didn't matter because it was about taking care of somebody that you love dearly. And when it's about that, I think the audience catches on to that. So that was that core, even being a younger person.
Yeah, I really love that insight because that's true both within the play and exterior to the play. You know, when we are performing, we do our best when we consider everyone we share the stage with. You know, and yeah, and that thing about negatively driven motivation ends up bouncing back upon the person who is motivated negatively rather than yeah.
And you can't play evil. You can't play like I'm a villain and I'm doing bad things because I'm just bad. You can't. I mean, that's because the audience will look and go, that's not a person. And the actor will feel like I'm not being a person, and it will just feel fake. So you have to have that core thing that is not just the character, but it's where you connect with the character. I have a younger brother who I love dearly. When I think about wanting him to have the best life he can have, I can bring that to dealing with Miranda. I can bring that. And so now me, the person, is hooked up with Prospero, the character, in this objective way that then allows me to not be in my head going, oh no, is my cape going the wrong way? Is this happening? Is that? And it's more about, no, I have to do this thing that's more important than me.
Yeah. And on the flip side, we have Richard III.
Yes.
Which is another noble individual who is all about negative motivation. And that. So let's talk a little about Richard from the north of England for a minute.
Okay. That's a show that I told our director this, and I told our actor playing Richard this. It was not a play that was at the top of my list in any way whatsoever. Like I appreciate it for what it is and the language that's in it, and there's beautiful stuff in it. But it's just never one again that I thought I would have anything to do with. And so I'm having to flip from you're doing The Tempest, and then I'm playing the Duke of Hastings through most of the show. And of course, Bridgerton came out that year. So whenever I said Hastings, they were like, "You're Hastings." I'm like, "It's not the same guy. It's not the same." But with that show, because Richard can be so inhuman, and because he can be so cruel, and because it can be so much about just catty people trying to hurt each other for power, you have to find a way within that, I think, to find somebody who has human motivation, they have to care about something. If they don't care about anything, then you're just doing something that's going to look silly, that's going to not have genuine feeling or connection for you. So for me, our director did a really cool thing where he took his mistress, who was Anne Shore, in history, and he actually made her a character in the play. So when I would be coming in and out of places, Anne Shore would be next to me as I'm like doing this deal with whoever this person is or talking to that person, so that he's like, the person you love the most in the world is always next to you. And so the way that you behave is based on the fact that she's seeing you have this behavior. Right. And when you don't want her in the room, you have to make a choice to say, hey, leave right now, because I'm going to do something that you're not going to like. And so that gave a really nice dimension to that character, because it's one thing for us to do things that we love and that we care about in private. It's another thing when a person that we love and care about is next to us. It's like driving when you have someone in the car versus when it's just you. And
Yeah.
like, I wouldn't try to make this light if you were in the car with me, but since I'm by myself, I think I can probably do it. Which again may not be okay depending on your situation. So there was that. And then the fact that he loves the princes of England so much, and that they are like his children. And so he also did a thing where he made sure Flip, and in a scene she then became a prince. And so the person he loved was always present with him on stage at all times, no matter what he was doing or what persona that was. So when he finally reaches that point where he loses, right? He gets outmaneuvered and they cut off his head. You feel like that's somebody that you care about, because you know that all the stuff that Richard does to those kids later in the play, he would never have allowed, right? He would never have allowed this country to become what it becomes under Richard's rule within the story. And then if you flip that and you're playing the Earl of Oxford, that's me just getting to come in and just beat the crap out of a lot of people, which was just, we had a beautiful, our director was also our fight choreographer. So he built in all of the fights into the show in a way that, like, I think only a director who knows the flow of everything could do. So you'd be mid-scene going, no, we're going to actually draw the sword as a character choice, and now we're going to fight. And the storytelling was continuing through the fighting in a way that, like, you could almost, it's like in a musical when someone starts singing and you don't even realize a musical number is happening. That was the way the fights would just come out that way. So that by the time we get to the end and I'm like holding Richard and I'm like choking him in the air and dropping him on the ground, the audience, you could feel the audience having not breathed for the last 10 minutes. And they all released that breath so that we could finish the play.
See, that's what we want to do with violence. We need the violence to be diegetic. Always, exactly. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry.
So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna jump in there. So we were talking about we've got some familiar Shakespearean themes on the quarrels of brothers and healing when their children become lovers and all that jazz. I'm just curious about your point of view on, like, what do you think makes that kind of a theme, that sort of quarrels among siblings, this familial dynamic? What do you think makes that theme so universal?
I think, and as someone who has 3 siblings, I can say that I think when you grow up with siblings, there is this dynamic of everyone wanting to establish their own identity. So even though you feel like you're a part of this set, you want to be your own distinct human being. And that sometimes takes the shape of, I'm going to have this career versus this one that has that career. I'm going to dress this way versus the one that's that way. And when you look at Prospero and Antonio in The Tempest, you think about the idea that these were 2 brothers who grew up together, and Prospero gets to have the power because he was first. Like that's the thing. It's like at that time, it's like, oh, you get to have all the power because you were born first. So I'm inferior based on nothing that I can control. And I think that even though we don't have, at least in America, the same way, we don't manifest that the same way. I think that's something we all think about, is that when you're the younger sibling, am I inferior because of this thing or that thing? Am I less than just because of my chronological status, if you will? And I think that there's something there that we can all relate to. And I think we can all relate to going too far when we're just trying to assert our humanity, when we're just trying to assert my identity. And I think we make the mistake sometimes. And I think this is one of the key things that helps him forgive his brother in The Tempest, is that Antonio wants to be something, but the thing he wants to be, he thinks is what his brother is what his brother has, right? I want to be important. I want to matter in the world. And the only way I can matter is by taking what my brother has, because that's the only way to be important that I know. And there's so many other ways that we can be of value to our society. We don't have to take what other people have. You don't have to become somebody else to matter. And I think that's the thing that Prosper kind of empathizes with. He goes, you have no conscience. You have no, you seem
Yeah.
to have no kindness in you, but you are my family. So I'm going to find a way. I'm going to find a way somehow for this to work. I also just think that one of my favorite plays, and since we're talking about Shakespeare, is Romeo and Juliet. It is at the core of my heart because so many people think of it as a play as like two stupid kids that are lusting after each other. They die, bad things happen, right? But if you think about that as a story of two people who've never felt love before, they don't know what they're supposed to do, right? That balcony scene is, wait, so are you supposed to court me this way? Are you supposed to say this? Am I supposed to talk now? Like they literally don't know what to do. And it's Juliet who goes, well, I guess people who love each other get married, so we should get married, right? And thus the rest of the play happens because of people trying to grow up and they only have the examples that are around them. And I think that's the thing that's universal. That's what, like, when you look at all of these plays, at the core of that is people trying to grow up and do the right thing, and they only have the examples of what's around them. And so we know the mistakes they're making because we have over 400 years and we have therapy and we have psychology. We can go, Edmund, you're probably not going to be happy if you get your father killed, if you take your brother's place, because the thing that's wrong with you is not that you don't have all those things, it's that you don't think you're enough as a human being. That's your problem, but you don't know that yet. We know that now. You didn't know that then. And I think that's the thing that we all connect to is just talk to somebody. Stop. Like, we'll talk to you. Don't do the bad thing, you know? So I think all of those things are loaded up in those. And I think that's what we still relate to and connect with.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point about Romeo and Juliet too, because you'll often see that meme where they say Romeo and Juliet is not a love story, and I always find that really disappointing to see, because anyone that truly believes that meme has completely forgotten what it's like to just initially feel that first stab of like really intense emotion that you feel around the age that the two title characters are.
Yeah.
And to feel that, and yeah, that's why it's a universal play. Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's a really important point. And also, there's all these things of control, and I love that you bring up the thing about power, because one of the things that Prospero has during most of the play and also in the backstory of the play, he lands on the island. He basically takes over the island. He holds the island in a vice-like grip. And over the course of the play, he gives up all of that power. In the end, he drowns his book, he snaps his staff, and then he has to go back to Milan. How do you think, in your mind, how do you think that plays out, like, for Prospero? Because he's now sort of no longer a sort of demigod on this island. He's this older man who was the Duke and now is returning, and he's given up all of his magical powers, and he's sort of just returning to, I'm a nobleman, so I'm not without some power, but I'm sort of returning to the real world, so to speak.
Yeah, sure. So I think looking at the choice that he makes to give up the magic, we talked a lot in our production about it being sort of an addiction, being this thing he couldn't let go of because he didn't feel safe without it. And for me, that scene, the idea always was, I have to let this go, because if I'm truly willing to forgive, that means I have to be willing to trust. So these people that took away all my power and all my control of things, the only way to truly let that live is to put all this magic stuff away. We also talked about this idea that it's costing him something, right? That if you look at it, he might be in his like mid 40s, early mid 40s, something like that. If you and this idea that he's being aged by the use of this magic, that it's taking something away from him to control this island, that it costs him something. He says in the "We Are Such Stuff as Dreams Are Made On" speech, he says, "My old brain is troubled, bear with my infirmity." Like he's feeling, and we always thought of it as to summon all those gods to make this joyful like marriage ceremony happen. That takes so much out of you as a person, and that if he continues to use that magic, it's shortening his life, right? He's losing something every time he tries to exert this control over the island. But I also think that if we were him, would we not do the same thing? Because if you look at pre-pandemic life where we go, oh, I have a schedule, I have a plan, these are the things that are going to happen, this is when I'm going to do this versus that, and then all of a sudden life goes, no, you're not. And you realize you weren't in control of anything. Who among us wouldn't just go, if I can just pick up this book and learn everything that's in this book and I could fix all of those things, who among us would not do that? And yes, he goes to a cruel place. He goes to a place of controlling the island, controlling the spirit, controlling all of that. But if you think about it, my daughter and me, because of me losing control, because of me not paying attention, ended up on a boat in the middle of the ocean, not knowing what was going to happen next. Mm-hmm. I have to have control somehow, some way. Does he take it too far? Debatable, but of course you would go, I need to make sure that nothing can hurt her. I need to make sure that we're going to have food. I need to make sure that we're going to have all of these things. So if that means I have to bend the universe to my will, then I'm going to do it because I messed up so much in my life. I can't mess this up. I can't mess up her life. I have to make us survive somehow so that she can have a chance. I often thought through the production, particularly in that scene, right before he gives up all the control, when they're doing the marriage ceremony and when they're doing all of that connection, he's like, I just want you to have all the things that I can never have again. Mm. And when he's talking about the cloud-capped towers and the gorgeous palaces and all of that, he's saying, honey, everything goes away. I'm going to go away. All of our life is nothing but the length of a thought within the mind of the universe, right? It's a tiny little strand in this tapestry. Mm-hmm. And I got to make sure that before my strand gets cut, that you are set up, you are connected. And so, yeah, he goes too far with taking control and trying to get revenge and all of those things. But the thing that's at the core of that is I need this control for you. Mm-hmm. And once he knows that she's going to be okay, once she has Ferdinand, he goes, okay, I have used this magic for everything that I could use it for. And I've done all these brilliant things, but it's time for this to end. We have reached the end. It is, he basically says, he's like, I've made the earth and the sky do battle with each other. I've brought dead people back from the grave. I've done all of these horrible things. But this rough magic that he's letting go of is I'm trying to control the universe. And at a certain point, it's cruel. It's hurting everything. And it's hurting me. I have to let go of this addiction. I have to say I'm Prospero and I'm an alcoholic, right? I have to say, and I have to let it all go because the only way the people I love are going to have the best life they can have is if I let this go. So it's a painful moment to let go of all that power, but ultimately, as with most things in life, doing the right thing sucks. But sometimes you have to do it.
Yeah.
That's such an interesting concept that translates so well into actual development for us as individuals, right? Mm-hmm. Because in my opinion, one of the things that we, especially in Western society, do to ourselves is we make ourselves have to have this need for control, right? Mm-hmm. In our lives, we just got to control everything. We got to be, and we do that, again, like you were talking about, out of fear of the unknown. Like if we're not in control of this situation, we don't know what the outcome could be. So we don't want the bad outcomes. So we got to be in control of the situation. But the truth is, we're not in control of anything.
Yeah.
Nobody's in control of anything, and any thought that you might have that you have control is an illusion. It's like magic. It's a poof. And look at that full circle. We bring it back to the play. Like, it's just that, but that's what's so awesome about this kind of work, right? Is that it is literally a reflection of us, and we are a reflection of the art that we are a part of. So this is wonderful. This is absolutely a cross section of who we are as in humanity, right? So, little shift as we're talking about Shakespeare. You have also recently performed in Royal Oak Shakespeare Company's production of Midsummer Night's Dream as Oberon and Theseus. And you've literally been able to bring magic to a bunch of people, and that's fantastic. As a Shakespeare nerd, do you prefer the magicals, the tragicals, the histories, the rom-coms, or do you not have a preference? Do you where do you go Shakespearean wise?
I make a proclamation, and then one of them proves me wrong all the time. So it's hard to pick one of them. My favorite of all of them is Macbeth, because I just love the idea of this play that's about manliness and strength and masculinity ends with all of these men at some point like weeping that they live in both extremes. And it's something that I just think, like, when I did that show on tour for a couple years with Michigan Shakespeare Festival, and that was always the thing that we said to the young men, particularly watching the show: look at these big men with these big broadswords, swinging them and killing people. All of them at some point in this play are on their knees crying because they can't let go of the emotional stuff that's going on within them. And it's valid to feel things, right? That was one of our big things with that show. So I don't have a preference with the three of them, because one of them just speaks to me in different ways at different times. Midsummer, for this one, was just about joy. It was just about happiness. It was just, it's a show that I really love, because the audience just gets to come in and have fun. They just get, like, we did the silliest things. We came up with the dumbest bits in that show, and it was just, and for me particularly, I grew up about 5 minutes from the park where we do that. It's Star JC Park in Royal Oak. And I remember in 2013, I graduated from college. I left, I came home, and my mom's like, "Oh, there's a Shakespeare show down the street." And I went, "There is?" And they were doing Merry Wives of Windsor. And I was like, there's a Shakespeare company down the street from me? It's like, yeah, they've been here since like 2001. They have? It's been like 20 years of them being here. And I didn't know. So the chances I've gotten to be on stage with them, I've done a couple of other shows with them as well, has been wonderful, because the thing I've always wanted to do is bring what I do to my community and bring it in a way that's exciting, that's not boring, that is just like, especially for people of color, to say, hey, these stories have something to do with you too, right? You are not, this is not a separate thing that exists that you have no part of. It's also a part of your life too, right? So I can't pick a favorite category. I can tell you that there are some of the rom-coms that have some ideas in them that I'm not too happy with, that I kind of stay away from. We're talking about you two gentlemen of Verona. We're not messing with you too much in this day.
Yeah, two gentlemen
as much as we thought we did. But so I love them all, and all for different reasons.
Well, as someone who was in that production, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Of Merry Wives. So that pleases me. Like, 9 years. 9 years. I like good reviews, even when they come 9 years later. So that was sweet and dandy. So. Yeah, no, I love that we're able to do this with our performances, and a lot more performances are coming up, because a lot of theaters have been announcing seasons again, and we're really excited to see some of those lineups, and it's been a time. And now we're going out again to perform, to direct, to work on, all the tech things. What kind of words of encouragement can you give to people who are sort of crawling out, blinking in the lights, and walking towards the stage again?
Sure. I've had a lot of performer friends I've been talking to about this. The first thing is you might not be as good as you remember you were because you haven't done this thing you do in so long, and that's okay, right? First couple Richard and Tempest rehearsals, I went, oh yeah, memorizing. That's hard. I forgot that's a hard thing to do, and that's okay, right? And in this world now where there's this sort of, I'm seeing a lot of hybrid, like you do a general audition that's a video audition, and then you do a callback that maybe is in the room with people. Mm-hmm. One of the things I would say is that if you're doing a video audition, that is your chance to be a storyteller and make whatever choices you desire to make in that moment, because you are creating a piece of storytelling, right, for these auditors. So make the big choices then. And it's even cooler now because you don't have to, like when I auditioned for Much Ado at Shakespeare Royal Oak, I did Bottom's death speech from Midsummer. And it was one of those where I thought this is going to be really fun. They're either going to really love me or they're going to never hire me again, because I'm just going to go as hard as I can into the direction of this. And now you get to do that, and you don't have to have anybody looking at you in the room while you do it. So go 300%. Go as hard as you can in the direction of your choices, because it's you filming. So you get to edit. You get to pick a take. Right? You get to decide how the room looks, what you're wearing, how you set it up. So I think I would tell all actors, take the time to make all those choices and consider all of those things, because what gets us in the room is not the fact that you can do 16 lines of verse without taking a breath. That's cool if you can do that. Congratulations to you. But the thing that gets you into that room for that production is them seeing who you are through the choices that you make. So make the choices that you believe in. Don't wait for anybody to validate those. You're already an artist, even if they haven't picked you yet.
Beautiful.
I love that. You're already an artist, even if they haven't picked you yet. So I actually did I did a reading about a year ago, and I discovered that in front of a camera versus on stage, I am much better on stage. I found that I didn't know, right? Sure. I was just like, I could just go back and forth and it'll be fine, because I'd done a little bit of film here and there, but this was a filming it in my room, in my office situation. And I wish I would have had that advice that you gave me a year ago, because when I did it with this concept, I guess, that it's different acting when you're doing a video audition or a video recording. And in some aspects it is. But long story short, when I ended up performing that in person, both our authors were like, you're so much better in person. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, thank you for what you thought was a compliment. Thank you for the compliment.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, gee, thanks.
So much better than all of my recordings. Thank you. Good to know. But that makes me realize, that's really, like I said, that's really good advice. Go hard even when you're recording, because there's no one there to judge you. There's no one there to look at you. And you could really just kind of do whatever and really just be you, and there's no pressure. There's pressure, but it's not the same. It's the same. It's like the same concept as it's not the same when you're in a room with people versus when you're doing Zoom. That energy, that nervousness, that butterfly feeling that might throw you off your game a little bit isn't there as much, or maybe it's reverse. Maybe that butterfly feeling puts you on your game. And when you don't have it, you're a little lax. So it's good to keep that concept in mind. Go 300% when no one's in the room. I really like that. So I will say that we know that theater companies have been on your mind lately, including the founding of one. Could you tell us a little bit more about where your thoughts have gone on that subject?
Yeah, sure. So as I mentioned before, one of the things I loved about doing Shakespeare Royal Oak is that especially going out there, you get to, especially when there's this year, they did a great thing where there were lots of young people and lots of people of color in the production, which was really nice because sometimes we know our companies can end up hiring the same 6 white people. And then those people that come to see those 6 white people come every year, and that's how they make their money. And that's fine. You know, if that's how your company works, great, fine. But one of the things we saw in the park this year was that people of color want to see shows. They just want to feel like they're represented in them and that they're a part of their community. Because there was a certain point where me and the other actors of color looked at each other and went, you don't know that person, you don't know that person, you don't know that family either. Because you're just used to, oh, well, there's like 4 black people, so all the black families are going to come see the black people who are in the show, and then those will be the only black people that show up. And it was like, no, there were more people that none of us knew that just saw people that looked like them, and they decided they wanted to see A Midsummer Night's Dream. They had never seen Shakespeare before. And I had one moment that was like I might cry thinking about it. We did the show came down, and I came out of the dressing room, and there was just like a little maybe 12-year-old black boy comes like rushing up to me like, oh my God, the show. And he starts telling me all the things he loved in the show. And his parents are like, he's never seen a play before. He wants to do theater now. He loves Shakespeare now because of this show, because of you all. And you know, again, yeah, goosebumps. It's like, it's that thing of no matter what has happened in my life up until this moment, it's all worth it. So that little boy can go, oh, my world is expanded. There's, you know, and even if he doesn't go into this professionally, his idea of who and what he can be has grown because he had this experience, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's the thing that people miss about arts education all the time. It's not about everybody becoming a famous actor or a famous whatever. It's about the world expanding because they got to have that experience. And so I've always wanted to take that experience and bring it to my area, bring it to where I come from. So I had a great experience recently. I have a play that's going on called You Talk White with Open Book Theater Company that they've been touring around doing this short play that I wrote earlier this year. And we brought it to my neighborhood, to the church parking lot from the church where I grew up. And so the community got to come out and see the show that was about their neighborhood, that was celebrating, you know, the dichotomy of what it's like coming from where you come from and all of that. And it was really moving. And so one of my goals has been and we're near like Livernois and Pembroke, that area in Detroit. And I was like, there should be an equity theater in this community that is about celebrating this community on its stage and using artists that come from this community, and also having an educational component that is just as important as the main stage. As somebody who's worked in a lot of education departments of theaters, that's one of the spots I think where they're leaving money on the table, right? Because the education is less important than production. But what they don't realize is that the new artists that are going to build that theater are made out of those little workshops that you do every day. They're made out of one time you had a talk back after a show and there was one kid in the audience, and that kid is hooked for life. And the thing that we have that's particular in Detroit is that sometimes that kid grows up and then comes back here and they can't make a living, so they have to leave, right? And so there needs to be a space for those kids who are cultivated in that art to come back and say, you know what, we are an equity house. We're going to help you get equity points and go equity, and you can stay or leave if you want to, but this is a home for you if you want to be here, right? And there's not enough of that in this area, quite frankly. And I love where I come from. That is something that is missing. And so it would be my ultimate dream if I could. I mean, I'm in the house I grew up in right now because I've been with my parents for a while. It would be my dream to walk down the block, go into our neighborhood, and see this theater that represents this area, and have it be something that is nationally known, that people care about. That every neighborhood should have a Steppenwolf. That's honestly what I believe should exist in the world. So that's what I'm thinking about right now. So I've been sort of starting to talk with people who I know who own and run theaters about what the process is of doing it and how to do it in a sustainable way. Because we've seen many theaters around here start up and then they're gone because it wasn't quite a sustainable model. So it's how do we make a sustainable model that serves the community, but that is not one in which all the artists are going bankrupt trying to trying to make this thing happen. So that's where we are now. So we're in the early stages. Now we got some friends I'm starting to work with, and we're putting ideas together.
We're gonna have to talk.
Yeah. Oh, please.
All of us are gonna have to talk because we're very much on the same page.
Yeah.
100% on the same page. I've been saying for a while now, Detroit can be and has always been a mecca for the arts. It's a mecca for creation, for creativity. Even when it was just the automotive industry, that's still creation and creativity. Mm-hmm. We just need people to stay here. We just need them to stay here. Mm-hmm. Or, well, I'm in LA right now, but to stay in Detroit, because that's the thing, is that people move to here, to LA, or move to New York, or move to Chicago because they can't make a living in their chosen field in Detroit. Right. But that's bullcrap, because they can. We just have to come together. We need to come together as a community, as an artistic community, and because that's how we're going to keep it cyclical. That's how we're going to keep people here, is that we need to support each other so that we can continue to create art that we can consume and inspire other people to create art to be consumed. That's how we can fund ourselves being performing artists in Detroit. And Detroit can be just as great, if not better, than Chicago, New York, and LA. Yeah. We have it. We have the technology. We just got to put it together.
And we don't just have to do whatever Broadway did.
The energy is so great.
Yeah.
Yep. So we're all very excited about this. Clearly, everyone. This is like all of our stuff. So one of the fun things when we're talking about, I really want to do this, and, we can talk about community involvement and the educational element, but we're also creating theater in the sense of shows. So one of the fun exercises about that is saying, like, money, no object. What's your dream production and how would it go down? You can do the largest show. Someone, a fairy godmother, fairy godfather, fairy godperson comes by, waves a wand and says, everything you want to do in this production, you're going to get to do. What show do you do? How do you see it going?
Sure. It's a hard question because there's so many plays. I think it would be a brand new play. I think it would be a brand new play. So I don't know what I don't know what it is yet, but it would be a brand new play in that theater I was talking about, and it would have as many local artists working in not just on stage departments, but you would have local artists doing the lights, doing the costumes, doing all of those things. And we would have a budget that would allow us to take that show and move it around the country to say that this is the stuff that we make. This is the stuff that we do here. And it's just as important as the 4 musicals that you know about that come out every year on Broadway. It would be at that level. And it would do something like, I think the Old Vic in London used to do this, where they would have like their giant Richard III production, and then they would just take it around the world for a year. And they would just show everybody around the world what this theater and this community does. So it would be something like that, a new play that we could just take everywhere with local artists.
Fantastic.
I love that. So how about on the flip side of that, what would be your choice for a super minimalistic play? And how would you do that one? Same parameters, just the opposite side.
Yeah, I would really, really love. I'm going to give you 2 answers because I'm going to just cheat and be creative. But there's one play that I really love. I did it in college, and I would really love to have it done here. It's The Last Days of Judas Iscariot by Stephen Rodriguez. I would love to take that show because it's one of those shows that I think lots of people like to make it bigger than what it is, and you could put it in a room that's almost the size of a conference room and just have characters coming in and out and debating all these things about Jesus and Judas and what it means to be human and forgive and all of those things. And you could do it in the tiniest little space, and you could still have the same impact as having it be on a massive like stage at the Fisher or something. So I'd love to do that. The other thing is I'd love to create a lab where we have again, we have our new playwrights that are in this area where they get to come in and experiment. They can take their 3 or 4 person play, put it in this room, and they get to put it up, and maybe we charge people $5 or something to see it, and they get to have a little run of their show that they just get to test out their writing, and maybe that becomes a bigger show later on, but they have a place to experiment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Tori and I both responded about the same time when you said the last days of Judas Iscariot. Because I don't know if Luna's able to see what's happening. Because if she was here on screen when you said that, I'm pretty sure her little scream of happiness would have broken the camera. Because it's definitely one of her favorite plays. And yeah, so we need to make some time to just sit down and talk about future plans, because you have mentioned a whole bunch of stuff that both philosophically and artistically and production focusedly and community engagement. Yeah, we need to sit down and have a very nice conversation, possibly over dinner. So we have time to talk about all this.
Oh yes, Craig, this has been incredible. One of the things that the Ibis believes in is collaboration amongst theaters and collaboration amongst actors specifically. That's one thing that I think Michigan theater can definitely improve on, and theater as a whole, but specifically Michigan theater can improve on. If you look at different forms of art, right, different types of media. For example, DJs. If a DJ comes, and wants to do a show, most of the time it's not just that DJ, it's 3 and 4 and 5 DJs, and they're collaborating and they're bringing their own audiences. And now you've gone to a show to see this person, but you've been introduced to these other 3 people, and now you've got new. So that's what we need to be doing. We need to be working together, not against each other, to 100%. Uplift theater as a whole. And when I tell you pretty much everything you said today is like in perfect alignment with our belief system, that's in perfect alignment with our belief system. So we would absolutely love to continue to talk with you both off camera. And hey, y'all out there, you knows what's going to happen with us and Mr. Craig Ester. We might be seeing some more of him. We will definitely be seeing more of him. But I'm saying we might be seeing more of him with us. So thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today, Craig.
Me. Yeah, this has been great.
It's incredible. I love being able to have these kinds of conversations with local artists. Being able to talk about, like I said, what it's like to be an artist in this industry, what it's like to be a human being in the art industry as a whole, and just analyze some art and analyze how it makes us feel and really just talk about some real stuff. And I appreciate that. And
being a human in this industry is a whole other podcast. We could go for another couple hours. So. Don't
worry. Don't worry. You may be.
Don't worry. I think that's a given. Yes. So.
I just want to take a minute to shout out everybody who joined us today out there in the interwebs land. We see our diehard fans. We got Joey, we got Bridget, and we got Sabrina. You guys are amazing. You support us on every episode, and we really appreciate you joining us. If we don't see you, if I didn't mention you, it's because I didn't see your name, but that doesn't mean we don't love you just as much. Thank you for joining us, everybody. We really appreciate it. Tell your friends. Tell your husbands, tell your wives, tell everybody. Beyond the Ghost Light, the first Sunday of every month, where we talk art and we talk about what it's like to be doing this stuff. Nick, you got anything to say before we head on out?
I just really pleased that this was another fantastic conversation. This will be archived, and I'm just going to point to TikTok a minute. Anyone who's watching this, please visit the website. You can find it in my link tree. And you'll be able to see the actual episode live, archived. Just a wonderful conversation. Thanks, Craig. This has been terrific.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. You have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you for joining us with Beyond the Ghost Light.